This is Lisa Aylwine. Welcome back to our continuing study in the 7 Abominations of the Wicked Lamp. And we're in the 6th seal now. We're trying to finish up the 6th seal here pretty soon. I know it seems like it's been the longest one, but there's lots of information in there. And in the last program, we took a look at those stars that fell out of the sky. It was, again, the deep darkness, how they fell out of the sky like unripe figs. And we looked at Yeshua. You know, the language in the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew makes it a little clearer. He says, from the fig tree learn the parable. He doesn't say learn the parable of the fig tree. He says, from the fig tree learn the parable. The fig tree is telling you something. So the fall, you know, goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden, where Adam and Eve tried to use fig leaves to cover themselves, but that wasn't going to cut it. So they fell out of the garden. And then we took a look at Song of Songs as a prophecy of resurrection and being prepared to arise. There's a preparation. Arise, come along, my beautiful one. There's someplace we need to go. And it talks about how the fig tree has ripened its fruit. So that's the fruit we want to be. We want to be the Israel that is ripe fruit. We don't want to be the Israel that is either unripe fruit or rotten fruit. So we went over in the last few programs, what is an unripe fig? What are they talking about? And it went back to the 9th plague of darkness in Egypt. So we won't revisit that. I want to, again, take a look at this, the unripe figs falling from the sky, again, having an identity as children of Abraham because they're stars. The descendants of Abraham, but also being those witnesses. Remember at the Song of Moses, Moses called heaven and earth to testify. So the children of Israel as the stars of the sky, they are to give the testimony of Yeshua and the commandments of God. And so in Revelation, when you see those stars falling like unripe figs, then it tells you they're just not prepared for the kingdom. They are not ready to hear the voice of the turtle dove in the land. And then we say, okay, we're getting all these prophecies, but how does really that help us? Because it seems like we're not really hearing about Egypt in the book of Revelation. We're hearing about Babylon. Yes and no. Yes, you're hearing about Babylon, but you are also hearing about Egypt. Whenever you see the serpent, there's some things that the serpent kind of pulls along with him that go back to the Exodus from Egypt. You can find that in some other programs on our YouTube channel. But in short, the kingdom of Egypt was the serpent kingdom that gave its authority to the first beast kingdom, which was Babylon. That's too long a trail to chase right now. But it explains why in the book of Revelation, we can read it kind of like somebody cut up all the Torah portions, put them in a jar, shook them up, and then just threw them out on a table. And if you don't know those Torah portions, it can seem like a bunch of disconnected information. But years and years of learning Torah portions, now you know context for certain things, and it's fine to you if it's just presented in a different chronology. Because what you know about prophecy is, yes, prophecy repeats itself, but never identically the same as it did before. But you've got the beacons. You've got all the earmarks of a particular thing to help you understand your present thing. So in the book of Revelation, Babylon seems to take on a greater role because it was the first of the beast kingdoms. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, Rome, or even the present-day daughters of Rome. It doesn't really matter. They're all one beast. They're all one image of the beast, which went back to the time of King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king. So if we want to understand, well, how do we fit in here with this mystery Babylon and the woman sitting on the scarlet beast and so forth, then we also have to take into account not just the exile in Egypt and the Exodus, we also have to take in the Jewish exile in Babylon and their exodus back to the land. Like I say, you're cutting stuff up and then you just throw it in the book of Revelation. So it's not so easy to sort out, but it's lots of fun to sort it out. So in the last program, I took you back to Jeremiah chapter 29. I think I said verse 21. So fact check is Jeremiah 29:1, not 21. And so we went through this letter, this prophecy that Jeremiah sends to the Jews in the Babylonian exile. And he tells them, just kind of in a nutshell, okay, there's 70 years decreed for your exile in Babylon. Until then, he says, build houses, live in them, plant gardens, eat their produce, take wives, father sons and daughters, take wives for your sons, give daughters to your husbands, so that they may give birth to sons and daughters. Grow in numbers there, do not decrease. Seek the prosperity of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord in its behalf, for in its prosperity will be your prosperity. In other words, you are living out here among the Babylonian systems of the earth. You're living among the daughters of Rome, the Iron Kingdom. And so he's saying, I'm not surprised you're in exile. I sent you there. Okay, he didn't wake up one morning and was surprised because, oh my goodness, you were living in the United States, or oh my goodness, you're living in Ireland. It didn't surprise him that you're out there among these daughters of these beast kingdoms. But he says, if that's where you are, seek their prosperity until the appointed time, because their prosperity will be your prosperity, and it will create a freedom for you to worship me. But he says, when 70 years have been completed for Babylon, I believe this is verse 10, I will visit you and fulfill my good word to you to bring you back to this place. So you say, how will I know it's time to leave my Babylon? Well, when those years have been completed, whenever they are, and Yeshua says, don't work too hard to try to figure it out. He says, not even the angels know. He says, I will visit you. A visitation, biblically, means a direct intervention. And fulfill my good word to you to bring you back to this place. Now, the way that you prepare for that is, at least in your heart and mentally, be prepared to leave where you are. You can't be so stuck to Babylon and all its benefits, its luxuries, its conveniences, that you would prefer that he just visit you and let you stay there. That was the difference with the unripe figs and the figs, who are ready to arise and go to the land and to follow the voice of the turtle dove of King Messiah. He says, I will visit you, so you won't have any doubt. You say, well, what should I look for? Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. If you're listening to this, it's probably not a problem. You're going to know when he visits us, because there won't be any question whatsoever. And, I think this is why he's saying, if somebody tells you I'm in the wilderness, don't go out there. If they tell you I'm in the inner chamber, don't go there. There's going to be many false messiahs. What's going to happen with us as he brings us out of Babylon? It's going to be new, but it's going to be old. And he says the only way that you're going to be able to know this time of visitation is that you call upon me, you pray to me, you seek me, you find me with all your heart. And he says, I'll let you find me. If you search for me with all your heart, I will let you find me. And I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all nations and all the places where I've driven you, declares the Lord. I will bring you back to the place from where I sent you into exile. So you're saying, should I buy an RV? Should I buy a horse? Should I get a van? How, is a cloud going to pick me up and take me back to Israel? I don't know. But understand this from the Exodus. All you had to do is be prepared to go. It was his job to get you there. He provided the leadership to get you there. He provided specific instructions to get you there. He provided the food to get you there. He provided the water to get you there. He says, this is the way you'll miss it. If you're worried about missing this call out of Babylon, he identifies those who will miss it. He says, because you have said the Lord has raised up prophets for us in Babylon, and you so want to believe them that you will say pretty much that God moved to Babylon. The holy mountain's not a holy mountain anymore. Jerusalem's not the holy city anymore. You will find all sorts of reasons to diminish the role of the land and the people in the land living their covenant. And he says, in such a case, you are like rotten figs that cannot be eaten due to rottenness. With sword, famine, and plague, I will make them an object of terror to all the kingdoms of the earth. And he actually says that twice. He's talking about the altar judgments there, sword, famine, and plague. And because he repeats it, it suggests that maybe there are two exits. There are two exoduses from Babylon. There was the exodus at the time that the Jews came back and built the second temple, but there was a future Babylon he was prophesying to. I believe this is the Babylon of Revelation. And I believe there are many out there among the nations who call themselves by the name, who believe in Messiah Yeshua, and nevertheless, if you gave them a paid ticket to Jerusalem and said Messiah's there, just like he said he would be, they wouldn't go. They wouldn't even go check it out, because they want Messiah to be in their city. They want their city to have the same status as Jerusalem. Well, if your city is just the same status in Jerusalem, then you have basically just ignored everything in Scripture that makes that city special. And you can't judge it by the modern secular city. You have to see what's not there, but what has always been there, so that you will understand why you need to return to your inheritance. Because if you're not willing to return to your inheritance, you're the unripe and the rotten fig. You're going to be a stumbling block to those who do want to return. So he says, you therefore hear the word of the Lord, all you exiles, whom I have sent away from Jerusalem to Babylon. See, the problem is you've been out in Babylon so long, you think that's where your citizenship is. You think you're a citizen of the UK. You think you're a citizen of the United States. You think you're a citizen of Peru. But you're not. If you're a descendant of Abraham, if you're a star, then you are bearing witness to the testimony of Yeshua and the commandments of God. And among those commandments is a commandment to return to Jerusalem at the feasts, to know your appointed times. And if you're just as happy in your nation of exile, because it offers you all the conveniences of Babylon, and that wilderness journey to Jerusalem just doesn't seem worth it at this point, worry. Now you can worry. But if you say, you know what, I know I've never really been a Babylonian. I know I've never really been a South African. I know I've never really been an American. I know I've never really been a Canadian. I've always known I was a citizen of Jerusalem first, and I was just supposed to live where he sent me and pray for their prosperity, to reproduce, to do good, to produce good fruit, but to never forget that he's going to call me to my true home of nationality. I don't want to lose that witness. I don't want to be that fig that falls out of the sky. And here's what's going to distinguish you. You say, well, how will I know that I'm an Israelite living in Babylon? Well, again, we can look at past prophecies and history of Israel, and we can find the clues. If you go to Esther chapter 3, verse 8, I think you're going to get an idea of how this is going to happen and how it may already be happening. Some of you may already be experiencing this. Remember, there was an Amalekite. His name was Haman or Haman. May his name be blotted out. And he hated Jews. despised them, wanted to wipe them off the face of the earth. And here's how he presents the argument to King Ahasuerus. He says, there is a certain people, scattered and dispersed among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from those of all other people, and they do not comply with the king's laws. So it is not in the king's interest to let them remain. How will you be found in Babylon? How will you be found in Persia? How will you be found in Greece? How will you be found in Rome? How will you be found in New York City? Probably all the same way. Because you serve the King of Kings. You have internalized that little scroll, not just the Torah, but you have understood justice you shall pursue. You understand that there's an accounting at the end of days for your actions, and you're living according to that with the power of the Holy Spirit. And you try to be a good law-abiding citizen. There's no report here that somehow they are in violation of a specific law of the king. It doesn't say that. He's just saying, hey, you're not really their king because they've got their own set of rules. They don't comply with the king's laws. Where's the argument here? What have they done specifically? Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but that's a long time ago. We're now in the kingdom of Persia. We're not in the kingdom of Babylon. There's no specific complaint. It's just this general, oh, because they've got their own set of rules, they're just not going to fit in here. It's not in your best interest to let them remain here. And so at this, we've got Haman instigating a genocide against truth. Because who in the 127 provinces of Persia holds the words of truth? The Jews. And all the tribes that blended in with Judea, with Judah. Once the roadblocks were lifted, there was a small migration. We've got 10 northern tribes who are mostly lost. We've got a smaller number of them among the Jews. What's going on here? Well, again, they have made themselves distinguishable by keeping the Torah. Like you said, no specific complaint. What have they done wrong? He's just saying they're not in compliance. How? How are they not in compliance? Just keeping the Torah will distinguish you on your workplace, among your family members, in politics, government, even medicine. Eventually, you will run into something in Babylon's systems that runs contrary to the word. And you're not trying to start an insurrection. You're just trying to keep God's laws. And therefore, you're going to be marked out because, remember, the Babylonian system wants to be God. What did the king of Babylon want to do? He said in his heart, I will lift my throne above the mount of the Moed. If I can control the mount of the Moed, I will lift my throne above the height of the stars. I will lift my testimony over the testimony of the descendants of Abraham. They might be as numerous as the stars in the sky, but my testimony is higher and more powerful than theirs. My law is over theirs. That's been the plan from the beginning, and it's shown up in every generation. And remember how Yeshua said, from the fig tree, learn the parable? And it does kind of take you back to the garden. And the rabbis, they can read things. If they take the vowels out sometimes, there's a play on word in a text. They say the first appearance of Haman, may his name be blotted out, but the first appearance is in Genesis. When Elohim asks Adam and Eve, did you eat from the tree that I told you not to eat? And if you strip those vowels out, it reads Haman, the tree. Haman, the tree. And they say this is the first appearance of Haman in the Bible. Because what is he doing? He's trying to kill the creation of Elohim. He's trying to murder Adam and Eve. He knows they will fall into the realm of death if they eat from the tree. And so the roots of this, and what they do, they try to cover it with fig leaves. And so Haman the tree, he's in Persia. He was even apparently in the garden, that same desire to set his throne above the throne of Elohim, to set up shop with the serpent in rebellion. And so think about poor King Ahasuerus. He's a little clueless. He falls for this, not understanding that the queen is Jewish. And when Esther sets him up, she says, "May the king and Haman come to a banquet I have prepared for him." Singular. And so the king says, "Okay, we'll come to the banquet." But he's up all night. He can't sleep. Why can't he sleep? Probably because he doesn't know who him is. Is the queen referring to him, her husband, or is the queen referring to Haman? And why would she be wanting Haman to come to a wine banquet of all things? Pretty, it's not the same as just, any old banquet. It's a wine banquet. We know what goes on at wine banquets because Vashti. We can see what's going on there. And so he's up all night like, why does she want Haman? And how does she know Haman? And then Haman shows up, dummy, at the worst possible time. And the king says, well, what would you do for a man that the king desires to honor? And Haman, also being a little dim, cruel but dim, he says, oh, I think I would put the king's robe on him. I'd set him on the king's horse and just, have a guy run out before him and tell the world how wonderful he was. And the king, having his queen and Haman on his mind, says, oh my goodness. He's probably thinking to himself, Haman wants my kingdom. He wants my queen. He wants my clothes. He wants my horse. He wants my throne. And so at the banquet, the king in rage, once the queen reveals what Haman's trying to do, the king goes out in rage. And then when he comes in, Haman has thrown himself on the queen's couch, and it looks as though he's assaulting her. And the king goes into a rage. Well, he's already in a rage. He's already suspicious of Haman. And it looks as though Haman desires his queen. Again, Haman desires his kingdom. It goes back to the garden. What did the tree want? What did the tree? Well, maybe the tree was in on it. What did the serpent want? Eat from this tree. This tree will make you like Elohim. You can lift yourself up to the heights. So that's the goal here. It's to make you hide from being distinguished as a servant of Elohim rather than an equal with. Because see, all this woke stuff that we're hearing, it's people who change the rules and their ethics every single day. The word doesn't change, they change every single day. What was acceptable yesterday will get you crucified in the media today. And tomorrow, what was right will be wrong tomorrow. They change every day because the darkness is in them. They're like the Egyptians. They're groping around. They don't know where they are. They don't have any light because they have rejected the true light of truth. But see, you know where the light is. You got light in all your dwellings. You're like, why are you people just bumping into everything? And they send out evil decree after evil decree after evil decree. That's all they know how to do. Because they're in rebellion against the Holy One. They want their ethics, their morals, their rules, their laws, their decrees stacked up on top of His. And see, if you keep His, if you say, I'm a citizen of Jerusalem, before I'm a citizen of Babylon, you will distinguish yourself. I think this is how the serpent is able to pursue the woman to the wilderness. I think that wilderness looks a little bit different than it did in the Exodus. I think part of that wilderness, you literally are side by side in Babylon. And so this pruning that's talked about in the Song of Songs, the time for pruning the vines has come. The Midrash explains this based on Zechariah, I think, 14:9. It says, the time has come, referring to the Song of Songs, when it says the time for pruning the vines has come. They see that as an end-time prophecy. The time has come for the wicked kingdom, that is Rome, the red one, the scarlet beast in Revelation, to be terminated. The time has come for the kingdom of heaven to be revealed to the entire world. As it is stated, and this is out of the Art Scroll, Hashem will be king over all the land. On that day, Hashem will be one, and his name will be one. So what's happening here? He's going to prune away. The angels will come and remove the stumbling blocks among the Hebrews, among the Israelites, get those out of the way, so that the Israelites will feel free to leave when they are called. And then the destruction of Rome, i.e. the scarlet beast, will begin. Because remember, it's all the same image. The golden head of Babylon, the silver of Media and Persia, the bronze of Greece, the iron legs of Rome, and then the iron of Rome is mingled with the clay of the feet. There's many daughters of Rome. All those systems, almost any of our modern systems, government, medicine, you name it, military. If you go back and you look at Greece and Rome, a lot of times it's even the names are the same, because the Latin roots of words are still very much present in English. But so many of our world systems are founded upon systems that they used to control their citizens. The king of Persia, he wanted to be called the king of kings. The king of Babylon wanted to be called the king of kings. That desire has been there since the garden. That rebellion has been there since the garden. So it's the observance of the Torah that's going to distinguish you as a true Jew or a true Israelite in Babylon. And this is, again, how the serpent figures out who to pursue into the wilderness. But what's predicted as well is that the wilderness of end times is not exactly the same. There's kind of a pre-wilderness. And this begins when you begin to withdraw from the king's system of government. At any point, it conflicts with divine law. They say that you might be in the wilderness even as you continue living among those 127 provinces of Persia. Remember, Sarah's children were there in Persia among those 127 provinces, and Sarah died at 127 years. So Sarah prophesied to be the mother of many nations. Well, she was the mother of many nations, but really there was one nation among the many that were her descendants. And what's really strange here is among those 127 provinces, they knew who their king was. But some of them also knew who their queen was. She might have been hidden. She might have been a mystery. But at the proper time, she stood up and said, for such a time as this is the time for us to be revealed as who we are. And we either distinguish ourselves that way, or they'll kill us anyway. That's the way it was in Nazi Germany. It didn't matter if you were half Jewish. It didn't matter if you thought you were a German citizen above a Jew. They killed you anyway. What's the point of trying to blend in? Where's your citizenship? That's the question. If you have satisfied that question, then it will not catch you unaware. The plagues of darkness, they will not catch you unaware. The removal of the stumbling block, not a problem. So, in the next program, again, we'll take another glance here at the woman who goes in the wilderness and what that experience might be like for a generation like ours. And how will we engage this pre-wilderness? How will we distinguish ourselves there?